All right. Hi, everyone. Hi. Happy Friday. I'm Meghan Hulquist. I'm going to present to you today the Inbound Marketing Masterclass. I lost my title slide, I guess. There we go. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. Inbound marketing is one of my favorite topics. I've been a certified inbound marketing consultant now for 12 years. And so as I was thinking about that yesterday, that's 3 full college careers worth of inbound marketing knowledge that I have bottled up in my head that I can now share with all of you. So during those 12 years, I spent about 5 years at the #1 inbound agency in North America, Square 2, who, used inbound marketing to make the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. And then ultimately, about a year ago or so, I spun off with my husband. We formed our own inbound agency, and we've been using inbound marketing pretty much exclusively to grow and scale our agency for the last year. So it's a really, really powerful system. We have a lot to cover in the next 50 minutes or so before your lunch, and I put together an agenda to help guide our discussion today. So we'll talk first about what is inbound marketing to make sure that everyone's on the same page, give you guys a little bit of background about where this came from. We'll talk about the building blocks of an inbound marketing strategy, how you put together a good strategy that's going to make sure you get good results. We'll talk about some key tactics involved in an inbound program and some best practices around them. We'll say a couple words about inbound marketing websites, what they mean, and how you can transform your website to become an inbound website. And then finally, we'll talk about optimization, which is a very, very important part of the process. At the end, if we have any time, we'll do some Q&A. And I'll repeat this at the end, but if you do have questions and we don't get to them in Q&A, just see me after the session. I'd be happy to talk. Sound good? How you guys doing? Blood sugar getting pretty low at this point, right? Okay. I'll try to keep it interesting for you. All right. So introduction to inbound. Okay. So I thought that I'd start with just a pretty straightforward definition, which you can see up on screen here. And I'm confident that by the end of this session, you'll understand this definition completely. So the definition that we have here, the process of attracting, converting, closing, and delighting customers by leveraging content at different stages of the buying cycle. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on this definition and on inbound marketing. The term inbound marketing was coined in 2006, and credit is given to a man named Brian Halligan, who's one of the co-founders of HubSpot. So Brian Halligan and his HubSpot co-founder, a friend of his from MIT named Dharmesh Shah, they created this idea of inbound marketing in response to what they saw was a known observed change in buyer behavior. Namely that with the advent of technology and with information literally at buyers' fingertips, buyers had suddenly become much more empowered and digitally savvy, much more so than they had ever been before. So meanwhile, technology is starting to advance, right? And this is from 2006. And things like ad blocking software and streaming cable apps and satellite radio make it such that we as buyers and consumers, we can actually block out any message that we don't want to hear, any disruptive advertising that we're not interested in. So enter this idea of inbound marketing, which is going to leverage content to meet buyers where they are online as they search. So you can think about inbound marketing sort of like a magnet. So it's going to make your brand and your website a magnet or a beacon that's going to draw leads in, as opposed to a traditional outbound program, which is kind of more like a hammer, just putting out a message and hoping that it sticks. So as part of this inbound marketing idea that Brian Halligan released, he released this process known as the inbound marketing methodology. And the inbound marketing methodology, the inbound methodology, has evolved a lot over the years. This is probably my favorite version of it. And it outlines the process that we, as inbound marketers, need to go through to get users into our database and ultimately turn them into revenue. So we're going to need to attract people to our website who are strangers. They'll become visitors. We need to convert those visitors into leads, get them into our database. And then we need to nurture and engage these users until ultimately they become customers, at which point they'll be so thrilled with the products and services that your company provides that they'll become promoters and actually start helping you out with your marketing. So I'm not gonna spend a ton of time here, but there's a lot of numbers on why inbound marketing is so effective. So we know that there's this change in buyer behavior, this big shift, and inbound marketing is a system that aligns. So we know today that 9 out of 10 people conduct research online before they make a purchase. So think about your own purchasing habits. Most of you, if you're making a big purchase, a complex purchase, you're probably gonna do some online research. 76% of a buyer's journey is completed before they ever talk to a salesperson. So let me see a quick show of hands. Who here likes talking to salespeople? That's kind of what I thought would be the case. So your target audience, as it turns out, is a lot like you in that way. They don't really like talking to salespeople either. So 76%, they'll get 76% of the way there by self-educating, going out, conducting research, figuring out their options before they want to talk to sales. And then content marketing is extremely powerful. It gives you 3 times the result at less the cost of this traditional disruptive advertising, and so it gives you really good ROI. And then finally, companies that excel at lead nurturing do a really awesome job, and they're gonna get a lot more sales-ready leads than if you don't nurture your leads at all. And so this is kind of a synopsis of why inbound works. So there's a ton of numbers out there about why it works. I don't know how to convince you guys, but I've done this for like over 100 clients and for my own agency. It really, really works, but I'm not really here to convince you. I'm here to show you how to do it. And how you do it is by starting with a strategy, an inbound marketing strategy. So an inbound strategy is extremely important to a successful program. And I harp on this because a lot of companies, a lot of clients I've had, a lot of companies get really, really excited about the concept of inbound marketing, and everything I've said so far, it makes a ton of sense, and they're ready to go, and they get excited, and they launch right into tactics. And sometimes they even see some success right away. They generate some leads, they get some blogs, or they see some visitors. But in the long run, without a sound strategy, you're just not going to get the results that you're looking for. And so just a word of caution, don't make this mistake. Make sure you take the time to create a solid inbound strategy. When you create an inbound strategy, you're going to start with target personas. Is everyone familiar with target personas? Show of hands. Familiar with target personas? Okay. Digital marketers, very good at target personas. We all know semi-fictitious representation of our ideal customers. There we go. For anyone new to target personas, we always include a photo and a name, usually alliterative, so that we can have an emotional connection with them. And we list their demographic and behavioral information. From an inbound perspective, there's a couple key areas where you want to focus your personas. So you want to make sure that you focus on the persona's goals, their challenges that they face in their professional role, their pain points or the problems that they experience in their day-to-day, and then their content consumption patterns. So what social media networks do they spend their time on? What blogs do they subscribe to? What emails are they a part of? Things like that. So those are your target personas. Once you've put together and documented who it is you're trying to reach, next is time to document and define what it is that they care about. And we do that with a deliverable known as the buyer's journey map. So the inbound buyer's journey is another important concept to understand in inbound marketing, and it represents this process that buyers move through on their way to become a customer of yours. So the buyer's journey is divided into 3 stages, as you can see: awareness, consideration, and decision. And I'm going to walk through each of those and give you guys an example. So in the awareness stage, buyers are just becoming aware of a pain point or problem that they're experiencing. At this point, they're doing really, really high-level research. They're looking for educational materials, and they're definitely not ready to talk to a salesperson. They don't want to talk to sales at all. So in our example here, our consumer has a sore throat and some aches, and they're wondering, what's going on? What's the problem that I'm experiencing? So in the consideration stage, oh, and by the way, these stages of the buyer journey tend to align with our traditional marketing and sales funnel. So people are moving through just as they would move down from top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. So our awareness stage moves into our consideration stage, at which point our buyers are now aware of the pain point or problem that they're experiencing, and now they're starting to investigate various solution types to solve it. So our sick consumer here says, I have a strep throat. What options are available to help me treat it? In the decision stage, buyers are ready to talk to sales, finally. They're looking for information at this point that's going to help them make an informed decision. He has strep throat. Now he realizes, I have a few options. I can see my primary care doctor, I can go to a clinic, or I can go to the ER. What do I need to consider? I have insurance, but I have a high deductible. The ER might have a lot of wait time. So all of these factors are considered at the end here in the decision stage. So that's our buyer's journey. Once we've mapped the buyer's journey, and now we have who we're targeting and what they care about, now it's time to conduct some keyword research, which isn't unique to inbound marketing by any means. But here we're going to do some keyword research so that we can infuse these keywords into our content, and we can ensure that the content that we're creating matches up to how buyers are searching. So a couple quick tips for inbound marketing keyword research. Always write for humans first and search engines second. Don't keyword stuff. It's a really old practice that's just not going to get you any results. Avoid industry jargon and acronyms and inter-office dialogue that you get accustomed to saying. Make sure you're actually speaking in the language of your prospects. And then finally, when you're selecting the keywords for your inbound program, relevance is always your primary criterion. And then from there, pick a selection of keywords that have a mix of difficulty score, competitiveness, and monthly search volume. Can't seem to get this clicker working here. There we go. So on screen, we have a quick example of some keyword research. We had an intern team put this together. So you can see here, this is for a new website that's launching. There's no current rank, but we're going to have search volume and competitiveness. Now, once you have your buyer personas, your buyer's journey map, and your layer of keyword research, now you have everything you need to put together a content strategy, which is extremely important in inbound marketing because, as we saw, inbound marketing is a lot about content. So when we put our content strategy together, we're essentially going to be compiling all of the information that we've gathered so far. We're going to make sure our content is really, really targeted, that it speaks to pain points and challenges that the personas are facing, that it infuses some keywords. And then we're also going to need to make sure that it accomplishes all of those different factors of the inbound methodology. So we're going to need content that's going to attract, convert, close, and delight customers. A word of warning with inbound marketing, it is very, very content heavy. So you're going to need content to do all of these things. Ideally, you're going to end up with enough content that you'll have content for all of your target personas at all of the stages of their buyer's journey and addressing all of the pain points and problems that they're facing. You're also going to need a mix of long form and short form content. A tip with content strategy, include in that document or in a separate document an editorial calendar as well. So map how you're going to accomplish all of these goals, and then also map out how you're going to roll that out over time, because there's going to be a lot of moving pieces and you're going to want to stay organized. With content strategies, so some of you, I'm sure, have done some content marketing in the past. There's a lot of different ways to build a content strategy, but my favorite, our favorite, at my agency is called the hub and spoke model. So in the hub and spoke model, each cluster of content here is around a certain topic on which your company is an expert. And there's many different pieces, as you can see. So you start with a central hub piece of content that's going to kind of anchor your program, and that's going to be generally lead generating. Then you're going to create this whole series of related pieces on similar topics that are in these different formats, and the lines are different hyperlinks back to your main piece of core hub content. The idea is that by drawing people in with these various spoke pieces, you're going to drive them to the hub, and that's where they're going to end up converting and getting into your inbound database. So at this point, with your content strategy and your personas and your buyer's journey and your keywords, you actually have everything you need in the strategy phase to get moving and launch your program. And so next, I thought I'd talk about some of the key tactics that you'll want to include that are really going to get you some good results. Oops, and here's an example of a content strategy for anyone who hasn't put one together before. So some lead generating offers up top, some short form tactics like blogs and emails at the bottom. Every single one of them has a CTA that drives back to that offer content to generate some leads. So here's our key tactics. As a reminder, here's our inbound methodology. We need to accomplish quite a bit with our tactics in our program. And so where I always start is with offers, which are, in my opinion, the most important tactics in an inbound program and the anchor pieces. So what do I mean by offers? An offer is anything that your company offers of value in exchange for a user's contact information. So here's a few popular offer types up on screen, organized by their stage of the funnel or stage of the buyer's journey. Like everything in an inbound program, you're going to make sure that your offers are always targeted to your personas. They are centered on solving a pain point or problem, and that they're educational and they're not promotional. Now, what's a little bit different in inbound is that for every one of these offers that you create, every webinar, every infographic, etc., you need to put together a package of information to actually drive leads and kind of complete this cycle. So for each and every offer, you're going to need the actual offer content, so the PDF of the infographic or the webinar slides, but you're also going to need a landing page, a form, confirmation page, a delivery email, a CTA, and potentially even a lead nurturing campaign if you want to attach that to a particular asset. So let's talk about each of these. Landing pages. And I apologize, my S is all the way over there. I don't know why that happened. So landing page is our home digitally for our offer. This is where our offer lives, and it's gated behind a form. So a few best practices on your landing pages. The goal of this landing page is singular. You want users to convert on the form. And for that reason, you want to minimize distractions and keep users focused on their goal. So we have no navigation. As you can see, we always remove users' navigation. We always take out any links to other pages on our site or otherwise. We make strategic use of H1s and H2s, heading 1 and heading 2 tags. We bullet the benefits of offers because we know that users online like to skim content. They don't really read very closely. And then we include an image where we can, and a video would be even better if you have it. And then, of course, you're going to add your form here. So specific to the forms, there's sort of an art in building these forms. You need to strike a balance regarding how much information you're requesting or requiring from your users versus what you actually need at that stage. So for an awareness stage, top of funnel offer like an infographic or a white paper, you're probably going to want to ask for minimal information because your users are not going to want to fill out a very long form just to get something like an infographic. Remember, they're doing high-level educational research. So usually ask for maybe 1 to 4 fields: first name, last name, and email address. As you move down the funnel and move through the buyer's journey, it's okay to start asking for additional information. So when you get to a decision stage offer, like a demo or a software trial or something, now you can start to prompt for additional information, like company name and phone number and job title and things like that. So align your form fields with the stage of the buyer journey where your offer lives. And one tip that we like to use is to use progressive profiling, which means that for return leads, you would actually prompt them with additional fields that would replace some of these fields. So the first time I come to your website and I download a white paper, I would enter my first name, my last name, and my email address. And then when I return and I download something different, like I register for a webinar, I'm always going to enter my email address, so it connects to my contact record. But instead of entering my first name and last name, this time I'll be prompted for my company name and my job title. So I, the user, still only see minimal number of fields, so my conversion rate stays high. But as a marketer, you're collecting more and more data, and so that can be a really powerful way to leverage forms in the inbound process. Once your user converts on your form, you're going to direct them to a confirmation page or a thank you page. And the confirmation page has quite a few objectives. One is going to be to confirm the user submission, right, and thank them if applicable, and let them know that their submission has been received. You're also going to tend to deliver your content piece. So if it's an infographic or a checklist or whatever, you're going to make that available right on the confirmation page. And you're also going to return your visitors navigation so that they can continue exploring your site. They're not locked into that landing page where we had removed the navigation. And then finally, you also have an opportunity down here to give them a secondary CTA. So to point them to some related content so that they deepen their engagement with your site and that they keep exploring. In addition to making your content available on your confirmation page, you should also send a delivery email, which is a really, really short and sweet email that simply delivers the content. So doing this is advantageous for a few reasons. One of them is so that it deepens the engagement with the user. So if you build something like a lead scoring model, you can start to actually score on things like email opens and email clicks. And so by making content available in a few different places, you're getting these different touch points and you can actually score on them. And then, more importantly, from the user's perspective, sending them a delivery email allows users to access your content whenever they feel like it. So let's say they were, waiting in the waiting room at the doctor's office when they did their initial download, and then they get called in. Now, instead of having to go back to your site and re-find it and convert again, they can just go to their email inbox and pull up your offer. So delivery emails are always the best practice. And then finally, for every offer that you create, make sure that you create call to action buttons, CTAs. So you're going to put these CTAs all over your other marketing collateral, like your website and your emails and your blogs. And these CTA buttons are going to drive users to your offers where they can convert and get in the database. So that's offers. As I mentioned, I always start with offers. That's your hub piece. You're going to want to roll those out first, and then you're going to drip out some other tactics. The second most important tactic in an inbound program after offers is blogging. And blogging is extremely powerful to an inbound program because of its incredible traffic and lead generation potential. So there's a lot of numbers on blogging. I'm going to share a few of them with you, which I hope are kind of compelling. So blogging generates 55% more website traffic for companies who blog than companies who don't. For B2B marketers, per month, it generates an average of 67% more leads. And marketers who prioritize blogging are 13 times more likely to report positive ROI on their marketing spend. So really, really powerful numbers. And again, the numbers are here. You can kind of do research on this. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's just really, really powerful. When you're doing blogging in an inbound program, always keep it targeted to your personas, center around solving pain points or problems, and then also roll in a couple blogging best practices. So for each of your articles, generally write about 800 to 3,000 words of copy. That'll be enough to pull users in, get search engines' attention. You're always going to want to include an image or a video where you can. Blogs that include an image get 94% more views. Blogs that include a video get 157% more organic visits than those that don't. So include an image or a video. And then perhaps most importantly, you want to make sure that there's a CTA button in every single blog post that you write. Any blog post that you write that does not have a CTA button is a wasted opportunity in an inbound program. So always include at least one. We usually include at least two. One in the first 100 to 200 words of copy, like you can see here, and then one right at the bottom towards the end with some contextual lead-in copy. The next tactic I thought I'd discuss is social media, because in my experience when I'm working with clients, they kind of get all this stuff going and they're really excited, and then for whatever reason, I've had clients that don't want to connect their social media accounts to this. They have like a separate social person or whatever it is, and I wanted to make sure that I share with you guys that inbound can function as a standalone piece, but the more assets in your marketing department you can roll in, the more powerful it's going to be. And so social media can be a great way to jumpstart your inbound marketing performance, because when we do this blogging and we get the attention of search engines, just like anything else in SEO, it takes about a minimum of 90 days for search engines to start really coming to your site and indexing and re-indexing and elevating your content in search results. So make sure there's a social media arm of your inbound program. I looked at the user numbers on social media just this morning, and they're pretty crazy. There's 2.8 billion users on Facebook. There's 1 billion users on Instagram, and there's 500 million active users on LinkedIn. So your target customers are probably on social media, given those numbers. So make sure that you do your persona research and you figure out where they spend their time online, because each of those networks is very different in their best practices and how people engage and all of that. When you're using social media as part of an inbound program or otherwise, adhere to what's known as the cocktail party rule, which essentially says that you need to behave in the same way that you would behave at a cocktail party, namely that you can't just stand there and talk about yourself the entire time, or else people are going to get bored. So if you meet someone at a cocktail party and you're telling them about who you are and what you do, and you pull out pictures of your kids, they're going to be interested for a little bit, but eventually they're going to start kind of looking around and checking their watch and trying to find somebody else to talk to. So similarly, on social media, make sure that you have a nice ratio of sharing other people's content along with yours, because you might get some initial traction if you're sharing just your own content, but eventually people are going to kind of see through that and get bored and go elsewhere. So make sure you're sharing other content as well. And then finally, this isn't really an inbound marketing tip per se, but I thought I'd mention it while I'm in front of all these people, that adding video to your social media posts is incredibly powerful. Particularly on LinkedIn and on Facebook today, these video posts, they really accelerate and get more eyes in front of your content. So add a video where you can. There you go. Our next tactic is email marketing. So once you get users into your database, you put your blog post on social media, you've gotten people to come, they click on your CTA, they convert on your landing page. Now you have this collection of users in your database. And some of them are going to be ready to buy right now, which is awesome. But most of them are not ready to buy right now. They were in the awareness or the consideration stage when they came in. So email marketing gives you a tool to keep touching these prospects and keep your brand top of mind for them, so that when their pain point does become acute and they do enter the decision stage, you're the first person that they think of. So some tips with email marketing for an inbound program. There's a lot of different email types, and all of them are really, really powerful used in the right circumstances. So you can do educational newsletters, blog digests, lead nurturing campaigns, promotional emails, discount codes, coupons. The right mix is different for every company, so make sure that you're exploring all those different email types and leveraging them. When you're sending emails in an inbound marketing program, or in any marketing program, in my opinion, always send from a real person in your company, a real person's name and email address, over a generic info at or sales at or customer success at. Your engagement rates will just be higher, both open rates and click-through rates. Just like in our blogs, right, every email should have a CTA. And guess where that CTA should go? It will lead them to your inbound content. And so all of these pieces are working together. And then where you can, you're going to want to use personalization tokens and segmentation, because that's going to make your emails even more powerful. So you can start segmenting based on the form fields that you had collected, and you can really, really start to tailor your approach. Okay, so lead nurturing is a subcategory of email marketing, but it's so important to an inbound program that I thought it would be useful to kind of pull this out and talk about it. So you have these users in your database, and you should be emailing them on a regular basis, usually about monthly with a newsletter or something like that. But additionally, you should have some automated lead nurturing campaigns built in. So these are run with marketing automation software. And it's a series of automated emails, right, that's designed to nurture or warm up your prospects, to keep them warm and ready to buy and, engage and all of that. So you design these by setting up some enrollment criteria, who's going to receive them. You decide which emails and which content that you're going to send, and then you pre-establish an email cadence. So you say how much time will pass before the email is sent. In these marketing automation platforms, you can get very, very complex with these. So you can do some if-then branches, you can personalize, you can segment, you can do all of that. For lead nurturing, most companies do either one general nurture that everybody kind of goes into, And then other companies tend to do a specific campaign that's attached to a specific particular asset. So you would drip out related content, right? So if somebody converts on an infographic, about why inbound marketing is so powerful, you would nurture them with emails like an invitation to your upcoming inbound marketing webinar and, a free demo of your new inbound marketing software, things like that. So those are some of our key tactics. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about inbound websites. As I mentioned, these inbound programs, they tend to be viewed as these standalone programs, and those can be really powerful and they can generate results. But to get the best results from inbound, to get the results that people are looking for when they look at some of those numbers that we looked at earlier, you need to make sure that your website is a central component of that. Your website, obviously, right, is your most valuable piece of digital real estate. And so you need to make sure that your website is taking an inbound approach as well. So the good news about inbound websites is that pretty much any website can become an inbound website with just a few minor tweaks. So I thought I'd share with you some common characteristics of inbound sites, and then we'll look at some examples. Hopefully you guys have got a feel for how you can tweak your website to align with an inbound program. So just like everything else, right? Our messaging on an inbound website is going to be very educational. Guess who it's going to be targeted to? Your personas. Guess what it's going to be centered on? Their pain points or their problems. We're going to make really clear use of CTAs, and all the inbound sites we're going to look at, you're going to see a very clear conversion path with a CTA that stands out so that users have no question about what it is that they're supposed to do. And not only are they going to have CTAs that are really clear, there's going to be multiple conversion points in this inbound program. So an anecdote I'd like to share, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, a lot of companies had just one conversion point on their website. It was contact us or contact sales. And, companies would come to us and they would say, how do we get more leads? Like I don't understand. Nobody's filling out this form. And, it's pretty straightforward. When you think about that buyer's journey, especially if you think about, the shape of a funnel, there's just not that many people that are ready to contact sales right away. And so you create these multiple conversion points for all your different pieces of inbound content and all the different stages of the buyer's journey, and that's going to be a great way to get your numbers to go up. An inbound site is always optimized for search and for conversion. So a lot of practices once you launch around SEO and CRO. And then you'll see that an inbound site will always emphasize the educational resources that are part of this inbound marketing program, usually in the form of a resources center or a blog. So here's a couple examples of some inbound sites. Here we go. Help Scout has some messaging that is very prospect focused. It focuses on how to solve the pain point or problem they're facing. It has multiple conversion points, including this little chat bubble down here in the corner. And it has clear CTAs and then an elevated resources and education section. Here's an example of an interior page that has sort of an inbound spin. So PeopleKeep has some nice information about the Coursera, which is an alternative health benefit option. And then right there on the page, they have a nice big CTA that's very clear. They'd like you to download their ebook related to Coursera. Evernote, so same idea with their messaging, very focused on the persona and on solving the persona's pain point or problem. Very clear CTA, multiple conversion points, and an elevated help and learning section. And then finally, Real Property Tax Advisors. So this is another example of an internal page that has CTAs. Here they have CTAs that align with the awareness and the consideration stage, an ebook and a calculator, and that's related to the content that's on the page. All right, optimization. So you build your strategy and you launch your tactics, and it's time to take a really deep breath because you've done a great job. But in inbound marketing, that's really only just the beginning. Optimization is an extremely important part of the whole process because inbound marketing is a really, really data-driven exercise. So a couple tips around optimization. You're going to need to become pretty intimately familiar with your data as an inbound marketer. So both your website analytics and the analytics behind the various elements of your program, you need to know pretty well. So in the past, People would look at analytics maybe on a monthly basis. On an inbound program for best results, you're going to want to make sure you're checking your data at least weekly and daily, or even more than once a day if you can. When you start to comb through your assets and your website and you're looking for ways to improve things, it tends to start to snowball. So you'll find one thing, which will lead to another thing, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you have this mess of things that you want to improve on your website. And so a system of prioritization becomes really, really important, so you can kind of figure out how to tackle these things and in what order. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. We use a framework called PI, Potential, Impact, and Effort. And it's essentially a ranking system that allows you to see which optimization efforts you should undertake first. And then once you've figured out what changes you want to make, we always recommend rolling them out using A/B or multivariate testing. So pretty much for any website that we work on, whether that's a client's website or our own, there's best practices and we have good hypotheses and we have good experience, but honestly, you never know. So we always test things just to see, get the data. So in A/B testing or multivariate testing, you can roll out different versions of a web page or a section of a web page. You run them, you show them equally to website visitors, and then you can pretty quickly declare a winner. So next on optimization, I wanted to talk about what should results look like in an inbound program, because optimization sounds all well and good, but if you're not sure what you should be striving for, that can become difficult. So this is really the heart of why I love inbound marketing so much. If you do this right and you build your strategy and you roll all these tactics together and you continually optimize, not only will your traffic and your conversion numbers move up and to the right, but they'll start to do sort of a hockey stick thing. So this is a pretty typical example of a successful inbound program. Things start to launch around here, and typically, especially when you have a new website, you have a pop of direct traffic visits, people that come right to the website, you have a pop of social media visits, and then the organic stuff starts to take effect. So you start blogging, you've got some new pages, you're adding CTAs to your pages, your organic search kind of starts to take off. And so these are traffic numbers for your various sources. In addition to that, your conversion rate is going to start to tick up because you're running these series of A/B tests and you're figuring out what gets better conversion numbers. And so when you have higher and higher traffic numbers and you multiply that by a continually increasing conversion rate, the results for an inbound marketing program start to grow exponentially. And that's the real power of these programs. And so I thought I'd also share where I like to focus my optimization efforts. So there's a lot of different ways to do optimization in CRO. I think you guys are going to see a CRO masterclass next. I have a CRO masterclass also. Where I like to focus is on conversion rates by source, because I find that these different traffic sources, that really makes the difference when you're trying to generate more leads. So you can see here the different traffic sources that we have, the number of sessions, and then our conversion rates. And so here, where I would recommend that people focus, is getting these conversion rate numbers up. So for organic search, for instance, you're going to want to dig in to find out what are the keywords or the key phrases that brought people to the site, and how can your conversion path, your offer, deliver on that a bit more effectively. For something like social media, I would want to figure out which networks are bringing in these users so that we can kind of double down on the ones that are working and do less of what's not working as well as we thought. And in this particular case, I would advise this client, due to our very high contact to conversion rate over here under social media, to really start thinking about putting some additional effort into social media. And then finally, you look for outliers. So our referral traffic here has a conversion rate of 18%. Which is much higher than all of the other channels. And so we'd encourage this client to focus there, figure out which sites are referring, what are their target audiences, what is it about your content that they like so much, and make more of it so you can replicate that success. Okay. And that's everything I have for you guys today. I got the 10-minute mark. I wanted to leave about 10 minutes for questions. I know you guys are probably eager to get to lunch also. So let me reiterate, again, my name is Meghan Hulquist. I'm with an agency called HQdigital. If you guys want to talk, so let's have some Q&A now, but if we don't get to your question or you'd like to talk more about inbound marketing and how it could work for your organization, I'll be outside in the Texpo booth, I think where you guys are eating lunch. We have a booth for HQdigital. So let's go with questions. Who has a question? I think I saw your hand first. Do we have a mic?
I got it right here.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry.
Oh, go. Yeah, go.
You're next.
Go ahead.
My name is Katie, and our company has kind of a high-class problem in the sense that we have a lot of companies within our family.
Okay.
So one of the questions I have is about the nurture and the drip campaigns, because obviously we're casting a pretty wide net with all these different companies that we have, and they all are centered around finance and retail investing.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, do you have any research or feedback on how soon is too soon to introduce another brand, if maybe, the original campaign or the original lead might be better suited to a different product or company that you also have involvement with?
That's a good question. I don't have any specific data on when is the right time to introduce a new brand. I will say that in general, branded content, like introducing the name of a new company, is a little bit further down that buyer's journey, so I would be cautious. But I think really the answer depends on what value the additional brand is bringing. So, if you know what pain point you're solving for this particular prospect, and genuinely another brand in that family of companies can help, then I think there's no such thing as too soon, because that's what they're looking for. What I will say, though, about the lead nurturing campaigns is that generally, that's one of the biggest questions we get is how do you establish that cadence? Like, how do you know? So generally, we like to align them with your average sales cycle. So you talk to your sales team, if you know that you close on average in 90 days, you kind of drip out that information over the course of 90 days.
Thank you. So you had mentioned that the emails, if you're sending out emails monthly for a newsletter, for example, that they should come from a person.
Yes.
So in my situation here with the Illinois State Medical Society, we have the name of the newsletter, physician advocate, and then some clickbait type of headline based on the some hot topics that we're covering in the newsletter. Should the newsletter instead of coming from the Illinois State Medical Society come from our president, like say Dr. Mary Smith?
So I would test it.
Right.
I think that's a really good opportunity to run an A/B test. I will say this about best practices. I know a lot of them. I read a lot of this stuff, and then we go to roll it out, and most of the time those best practices are true. Sometimes they're just not. So it's very possible that the name of the organization is going to be the most effective. I would think in your industry, knowing that you're talking to physicians or those in the healthcare industry, coming from a doctor, I think adds a little bit, of validation. I also think that, it might take people who are used to receiving the newsletter like a little bit to adjust.
Right.
But in general, studies show that, like if you send it from, Kathy Jones, Dr. Kathy Jones, president of the Illinois, state, I forget the name of your organization, but you get the idea. They tend to just connect a little bit better. And to improve results even more, you include a really hefty and hearty email signature. So you include a headshot and their name and their title, their cell phone number, the links to their social profiles, and that can really go a long way to improve email engagement rates. Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is actually related to lead nurturing as well, and actually it's two questions. But based on the images, it looked like you were using the HubSpot CRM for lead nurturing. So my first question is, do you recommend HubSpot, or are there any other recommended lead nurturing, softwares or platforms? And my second question is, I know you sort of touched upon it with the first question, but is there and you said that you should go with the sales cycle, but is there a specific recommended process or frequency as far as lead nurturing and the follow-up emails after that?
So both good questions. I do recommend HubSpot, and I want to be very transparent that my agency is a HubSpot partner. So HubSpot is not your only option, but the reason that I'm a HubSpot partner, the reason I'm HubSpot certified as an inbound consultant for all these years is because they're the source for inbound marketing. They coined the phrase, and they have all these resources. And so in my opinion, HubSpot is your best platform, but there are other options. So other marketing automation systems, Marketo is often used for like big enterprise accounts, Pardot, Eloqua, and I believe even some of the email marketing platforms. So ones that just do email marketing, like Constant Contact and MailChimp, I think they're starting to have some functionality that lets you do these automated emails as well. But yeah, HubSpot is definitely our primary recommendation. And your second question, I'm sorry, could you repeat your second question? The process. Oh, the frequency of those emails. It's a good question, and I don't have a great answer for it. You know, every time we work with a client, you know, we talk about the sales cycle and where things should align, and then we really just rely on the data. So in a typical lead nurturing campaign, I would say that we usually drip out about once a week. I would say once every 7 to 10 days. And then we just kind of start testing. And if you see that people aren't opening the emails, you know, we spread them out. And if you see that people are really engaged, we kind of condense them. I do have one client, though, that they have a really, really short average sales cycle. So, you know, I think the sales cycle is something like 2 weeks. And so they drip out like 2 to 3 times a week in their nurture campaign. So it really depends on the data and the sales cycle. I'm sorry, there's a more concrete answer. But yeah, once a week maybe to start.
Hi, my name is Paige. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned you have worked with over 100 clients on similar campaigns with your agency. Does your agency use drip marketing campaigns to acquire all of your clients, or do you also have a sales team?
So I want to make sure that I clarify. So I've worked with over 100 clients to build inbound marketing programs, but not through my little fledgling agency, which I've only been part of for a year. We have a portfolio of like 10 clients. But to answer your question, we do. We're big advocates of practice what you preach. And you know, my husband and I run the company, and we kind of grew up on the inbound methodology. So we do not have a sales force. We do all of the selling ourselves, which is interesting if your whole background is in marketing. And we have content offers, and we blog regularly, and we have drip campaigns. And, you know, we just try to get data. So, you know, the confirmation page example that I showed you guys, so someone converts on that sales plan template, and then you have the opportunity to offer the secondary CTA. We actually offered 3, which is a bit uncommon because we wanted to see what are people interested in? Like, how can we engage people more? So, yeah, we don't have a sales force. It's just us. And, yeah, we just keep trying to build that database and, you know, get that exponential growth. And, yeah, so far, so good.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I'm coming.
In terms of the best days to send out email campaigns, we typically do it Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, with the concept that Monday everybody's
Everyone's
recovering from the
sleeping, right.
weekend,
Yep.
and Friday everybody
Right.
wants
Everybody's
to get out
going
of
to
the
a
office.
party, right? Yep.
Is that your understanding, and do you get it down to time of day?
So there are best practices in general for email send dates and times. I would say upfront test them, right? So you never know until you actually test it. There's also some email integrations today. I know one company is called Seventh Sense that they like actually specialize in which days and times to send emails. In general, across all industries, my understanding is that Tuesday at around 10 o'clock or 10:26 is the best time to send them. Some hacks that I've read are things like, you know, send your email within 2 to 3 minutes of the top of the hour, because a lot of people get into a meeting or get out of a meeting and they have a minute to check their email. You know, I always tell clients, like, if you have no company has unlimited resources for marketing collateral. So with blogs and with emails, you know, if you have the ability to blog and email people 5 days a week, awesome. But most companies don't. And so I do give that advice that, you know, I usually skip Monday. I almost always skip Friday. If it's a holiday week, like 2 weeks from now, I'm very, very cautious about publishing anything because I think like 25% of the workforce is out on vacation that week. And so, yeah, I would say, you know, it's going to depend on who your audience is. One feature that we really like to use too is I think it's called Smart Send in HubSpot, and it sends by time zone. So you set the time you want to blast your email in your time zone, so 10 a.m. Central, and then it's automatically going to send at that time for everyone. So even if someone's in Australia or in India, they're going to get it at 10 a.m., which can definitely improve engagement rates as well. They're telling me I have 2 minutes, so I don't know if I have time for another question, maybe another quick one. But again, if you guys want to chat about inbound marketing, how it might work for you, or just talk about anything that you've seen today, just give me a shout. I'm out there on the expo floor. I'd love to talk. Thank you guys for your time today.